Hey everyone, my name is Jeff Bates. I'm a strategic marketing manager at IDEXX, and I work specifically at IDEXX Water. IDEXX Water makes water tests that help people who deliver drinking water, who are working in wastewater utilities, helps them understand the amount of potentially harmful bacteria that they have in their water. And so when you turn on the tap in your home, maybe something that a lot of folks don't think about, but there's a lot of people who are working hard to get that water to you. And that water is getting tested all the time to make sure that it doesn't have any bacteria in it that would make you sick. And IDEXX Water makes those tests. And so I'll jump around a little bit here, but just in terms of one of the questions was about motivation. That's a big part of my motivation, is to work on systems that continue to really make the world work behind the scenes, that really are behind the scenes that you maybe don't think about, maybe aren't top of mind. So that's IDEXX Water, water tests to ensure clean drinking water, clean wastewater. I feel really lucky to work at IDEXX Water. I work with a ton of really smart scientists, other people who have a ton of experience in the industry. It's really been a great position. And so my role specifically as a marketing manager is focused on two tests. I'll just, for the sake of simplicity, talk about one here. But we test to find this bacteria, which is called Legionella pneumophila. And I think it's probably a valid question to ask why I have a stuffed animal of this bacteria. And that's because we give them away at conferences and events. I think it's also a valid question to ask why anyone would want a stuffed bacteria from a trade show, but that's not really something I can explain. They just do. It seems to work. So marketing is sometimes a weird position. So to go into the kind of why this bacteria is important to test for and why we have a test for it, it's a naturally occurring, Legionella pneumophila is a naturally occurring bacteria in lakes, streams, ponds, but it can really grow to dangerous levels in complex building plumbing systems, like in a big hotel or in a hospital, if those systems aren't operated correctly. So if that happens, if the Legionella pneumophila grows to dangerous levels or proliferates to dangerous levels, and it then gets into small water droplets called aerosols that are inhaled into the lungs, then certain people can get sick if they inhale those droplets, especially if they've been smokers or if they're elderly or if they're immunocompromised. So my job is really to market this test, to make sure that the people who perform this test have everything they need to kind of tell the rest of the world how important it is to look for Legionella pneumophila, so that these building water systems can be run in a way that minimizes the growth and minimizes the risk to the public. So one of the questions was, what is the value proposition of this test, which is called LegeAlert? Why is that test better than other tests that are out there? And I think that's a really great question, a really critical question from a business perspective. And for us, the value proposition is fairly simple. It just boils down to the fact that LegeAlert is so much easier to run than the other tests that are out there. The other tests have been around for a long time, a little bit antiquated, if I can take that liberty. They take a lot longer to run. They're not particularly objective, meaning that if you had two different people look at the same test, they might get two totally different results, or two very different results. And so with the IDEXX test, it's easy to run. The results are very clear, so you can tell very easily, as that building owner who's concerned about the water quality in their building, you can tell if you need to do something differently to keep the bacteria from growing in the building's water system. So in terms of how we do this, how do we get the word out? It really varies by country, but we have sales teams that work very closely with our customers. And that's really our primary focus, is making sure that those sales teams have what they need to be successful. in terms of strategies or messaging or collateral brochures, sell sheets, information, that type of thing. And making sure that the customers who are running the tests, it's laboratories who are running these tests, making sure that they have what they need to convince these building owners and a couple other folks who are in the market to make sure that they know how important it is to run these tests. So that kind of describes what I do on a day-to-day basis. But if you kind of go up to a little bit of a higher level, my responsibility is really to figure out a way to get everyone who should be using and benefiting from this leisure alert test to use the test globally. And I think just to go back to motivation, I think that's another thing that motivates me is having a problem to solve, something that I really want to understand deeply, and that's probably one of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten in my career is just to be curious, keep digging until you really, really understand how something works. And I think that's one thing that I've, from people that I've worked with in my career, a lot of people who have been really successful have had that need to find out more, to understand, and to be curious. And I think one of the big parts of being curious is to just be honest. If you don't understand something, keep asking questions until you do. In my roles over the years, I've spoken with experts in that's probably a little bit too far. I've spoken with experts in a lot of different industries, and when you're talking to them, they all assume that you understand exactly what you're talking about. I think it's sort of human nature to kind of see the world from your own perspective. But of course, that's not the case, and you're not going to understand everything, especially some of these people who have spent their entire lives in these industries. There's just going to be some things that you need to stop them and ask for a little bit of clarity. And if you can do that, if you can just be honest and say, hey, listen, I don't know that acronym, or I don't know that particular phenomenon, 9 times out of 10, that person is going to be more than happy to explain it to you, and it'll bring you to an understanding of the subject matter or whatever it is you're talking about. But if the alternative is, if you don't stop and ask for clarification, you act like you know what they're talking about when you really don't, you're much more likely to end up missing a key piece of information, not understanding something that you really need to understand well to do your job. So that's some of the advice that I've gotten from a really great mentor. I've been lucky to have a number of different mentors. I don't think there's a common thread on who my mentors have been. Some of them have been bosses, some of them have been from different parts of the company, some of them from people outside the company, either from a personal network or people that I met on the job. So, my advice on mentorship is just to reach out to people. Everybody wants to be a mentor, and you'd be surprised how many people are willing to give up half an hour of their time just to help you. People want to help. And at the same time, just sort of a caveat there, if you do reach out to someone and you don't hear back, don't assume that they don't want to talk to you or they're ignoring you. They're probably just busy, and they're having trouble finding the time to help. But if you 2 weeks reach out again casually and without being too pushy, then you're likely to catch them on maybe a day where they can find some time and give you half an hour of their time. Just quickly, in terms of my education and background, I have a liberal arts education, which has served me really well. It's helped me. It's kind of the foundation of that curiosity, and helped me be a problem solver in general. Though I will say that in my career and in my current job, I've been really lucky to work with people who've concentrated in science and gotten PhDs in microbiology or chemistry, or they have their engineering degree or are data scientists. And I remember back to high school when I I really struggled sometimes to see how being able to do calculus or how being able to draw the molecular structure of a chemical would ever help me, solve problems in society. But I've worked with a lot of people who've kind of stuck with science, stuck with math, stuck with engineering, and they're some of the people who are making the innovations that solve problems on a global scale. It's really incredible to see that and to be able to work with them. So, there are really no bad options. You can do great things with both a liberal arts degree or a STEM degree. And I think that's all I have. Thanks so much for listening. I hope some of this was useful. Please stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and good luck with everything.